The golden leaves of Lothlórien shimmer in the evening light, rustling like whispers of an ancient secret carried on the breeze. High atop Seren Amroth, where the Malorn trees stretch their branches toward the heavens, Galadriel stands, her silver gaze fixed on the horizon. There's a tension in the air tonight, a quiet unease that even the gentle song of the forest cannot soothe. Somewhere beyond the borders of this enchanted realm, shadows stir. Dark forces gather, their presence like a storm cloud on the edge of a dream. And as the Lady of Light turns to Celeborn, her voice is steady, but beneath it lies a urgency that cannot be ignored. The fate of Lothlórien hangs in the balance, and the choices made this night will echo through the ages. Where are you listening from tonight, dear traveler? Is it the hush of midnight where you are, or perhaps the golden glow of dusk? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear where your journey into this tale begins. Because this isn't just a story, it's an invitation to step into a world where every rustling leaf, every whispered warning, carries the weight of destiny. Close your eyes for a moment. Can you feel it? The crisp air of the forest, the scent of blooming Elanor flowers, the faintest tremor of fear that lingers just beneath the surface of peace. Lothlórien is a realm of light, but even the brightest glades can harbor shadows. Galadriel's heart is heavy with the whispers of her scouts' reports of orcs massing in the mountains, of a darkness creeping ever closer. She knows the price of hesitation, the cost of doubt, yet to act without certainty could unravel the delicate balance she's sworn to protect. This is the moment where legends are born, where the quiet strength of a leader is tested. And as the stars begin to pierce the twilight, she must choose. Will she trust the warnings or dismiss them as mere phantoms of fear? The answer lies in the wind, in the rustling leaves, in the quiet resolve of a heart that has seen centuries pass. So settle in, dear listener, and let the tale of the siege of Lothlórien unfold around you. The night is long, but the story, oh, the story is only just beginning. The scouts move through the gathering of elves like shadows given form, their breaths ragged from the long run through darkened woods. Haldir steps forward, his usual grace replaced by a weary urgency, and the silver embroidery on his tunic is streaked with dirt. "My lady," he says, bowing low before Galadriel, though his voice does not waver. The enemy does not sleep. They gather beneath the ruined towers of Dol Guldur, your thousands upon thousands, armed not just with blades but with fire. A hush falls over the glade, broken only by the distant call of a night bird. The elves exchange glances, hands drifting toward sword hilts, fingers tightening around bows. Galadriel does not move at first. Her gaze drifts beyond them, toward the black outline of the distant mountains where the Fortress of Shadow looms. She has seen this moment in the mirror's depths, flickering like a half-remembered dream. Yet visions are fickle things, sometimes warning, sometimes mere echoes of fear. "How long?" she asks, her voice softer than the rustle of leaves. "3 nights, perhaps 4, Haldir answers. They move slowly, weighed down by their numbers, but they move with purpose. His eyes flicker toward the younger scouts, their cloaks torn by thorns, their faces still marked with the shock of what they've witnessed. "They mean to break us, my lady, not just to raid, but to drown the golden wood in shadow." A murmur ripples through the gathered elves. Some speak of striking first, of meeting the enemy beyond their borders, before the horde can reach the sacred trees. Others argue for reinforcing the borders, for trusting in the ancient protections woven into the very roots of Lothlórien. Celeborn steps to Galadriel's side, his presence steady as an oak in the wind. "We cannot afford doubt," he murmurs, though his words carry. "Not now." Galadriel closes her eyes. The weight of centuries presses upon her. The countless times she has stood at this precipice between action and caution, between war and wisdom. When she opens them again, there is no hesitation left. "Call the banners," she says, and though her voice is quiet, it carries the force of command. "Prepare the defenses, but do not yet loose an arrow. Let them show their hand first." Haldir bows, relief flashing across his face before he turns to relay the orders. The elves scatter like leaves in a sudden gust, their footsteps light but urgent, and above them all, the malorn trees shiver, as if they too sense the storm to come. The night is no longer still. It hums with tension, with the unspoken truth that dawn may bring not light, but blood. Beneath the towering Melian trees, their golden leaves catching the faint starlight, the lords and ladies of Lothlórien gather in a circle of hushed urgency. The air hums with tension, thick as the scent of crushed grass beneath their feet. Celeborn's voice is the first to cut through the quiet, steady as a river carving stone. "We must strengthen the borders," he urges, his fingers tracing the edge of his cloak where the fabric is worn thin from centuries of vigilance. Every path, every glade wore them with spells old as the moon's first light. But a murmur rises among the others, restless as wind through reeds. "What good are wards against fire and steel?" asks Orifin, his usually bright eyes shadowed. "The enemy brings torches enough to turn the golden wood to ash. Should we not seek allies? Let Elrond's wisdom and Thranduil's arrows stand with us before it is too late." Galadriel stands motionless at the heart of the debate, her presence like a still pool reflecting the chaos around her. She does not speak, not yet. Instead, she listens, to the tremor in Orifin's voice, to the way Celeborn's jaw tightens at the mention of relying on others, to the rustle of leaves that seems to carry its own whispered counsel. The threads of possibility stretch before her, countless as the roots beneath their feet. Then, with a grace that silences the gathering, she raises her hand. The argument's still mid-breath. "We will not cower behind our borders," she says, her voice neither loud nor harsh, yet it fills the glade like dawn fills the sky. "But neither will we face this darkness alone." Her gaze sweeps over them, lingering on each face as if memorizing the light in their eyes. "Rumil," she calls, and the youngest of Haldir's brothers steps forward, his posture straightening under the weight of her trust. "Take the swiftest path to Rivendell. Tell Elrond the shadow that once slept now marches." Another scout, a woman with hair like spun moonlight, bows before Galadriel can speak her name. "I know the way to Mirkwood's halls," she offers. "Thranduil will hear our plea before the moon wanes." Galadriel nods, but there is no relief in her expression, only resolve. "Go now, while the night favors secrecy, and to those who remain," she adds, turning back to the lords and ladies, "ready the defenses, but do not let fear dictate your hands." Lothlórien has endured longer than the mountains. It will not fall while her people remember what they fight for. The messengers vanish into the trees, their footsteps silent as falling petals. The others disperse to their tasks, their voices now threaded with purpose rather than fear, and high above, the stars watch, cold, distant, but unwavering. Like the elves below, they too have seen ages rise and fade, yet tonight, their light feels closer, as if bending to listen to the fate unfolding beneath the Mellion's golden boughs. The wind shifts, carrying not just the scent of pine and earth, but something darker, something that prickles the skin, like the first whisper of winter. High in the gnarled branches of the forest's edge, where the golden light of Lothlórien fades into gloom, a pair of yellowed eyes gleam. The orc scout crouches motionless, his breath shallow, his claws digging into the bark as he watches the elven messengers vanish into the trees. His lips peel back in a grin, revealing jagged teeth. They think themselves unseen. They think their plans secret. But shadows have ears, and the trees themselves sometimes betray their own. With a silent drop to the forest floor, the scout melts into the undergrowth, his movements swift and practiced. The news he carries is too precious to risk even a snapped twig. Behind him, the wind stirs again, but this time it does not sound like wind at all. It curls around the trunks like a voice, low and rasping, a chuckle that raises the hairs on the back of the neck. Run, little rat, it seems to say. Run and tell your masters what you've seen. Galadriel's hand tightens around the rail of the high platform where she stands. The wood is smooth beneath her fingers, worn by centuries of such restless grips. She does not need the mirror's waters to feel the wrongness in the air tonight. It slithers across her skin, a presence she has not felt in an age, not since the days when the Necromancer's shadow first stretched over Mirkwood. Her breath catches. They were too slow, the enemy knows. Below her, the elves move with quiet purpose, stringing bows, testing blades, their faces set in grim determination. None of them sense it yet, the way the very air thrums with a malice older than their oldest songs. But Celeborn pauses mid-stride, his head tilting as if hearing a distant note out of tune. His eyes meet Galadriel's, and in that shared glance, no words are needed. The trap is not theirs to spring. It is being laid for them. Somewhere beyond the safety of the Melion, the orc scout reaches the banks of the Anduin, where a skiff waits, black as a bruise on the water. He leaps in, his message a burning thing in his chest. The river carries him swift and silent toward Dol Guldur, where torches already flicker like hungry tongues. And high above, where the stars should shine clear, the sky seems to shudder, as if something vast and terrible has drawn a breath, ready to blow their carefully laid plans apart, like dandelion seeds in a storm. Dawn has not yet broken when the first arrow finds its mark. A sentry crumples soundlessly into the ferns, the black-fletched shaft jutting from his throat. Then the sky darkens, not with clouds, but with a hail of arrows, their tips glinting like 1,000 cruel stars. The Nimrodel, whose waters once sparkled with reflected starlight, churns as orcs surge across its shallows, their armor clanking like a death rattle. The elves are swift, always swift, but even their grace cannot outpace surprise. Bows snap up, arrows fly in answer, and the air becomes a deadly dance of wood and iron. Haldier's voice rises above the chaos, sharp as a blade drawn from its sheath. "Hold the line," he shouts, though the riverbank is already slick with blood. His own bow sings, 3 orcs falling with each breath, but for every one that drops, 3 more scramble over the bodies of their kin. The enemy does not fear death. They embrace it, laughing through broken teeth as they press forward. Behind him, the soft rustle of robes and hurried footsteps signal the retreat of the children, the elders, those who have not held a sword in centuries. Every second Haldir buys them is paid in arrows, in sweat, in the burning ache of muscles pushed beyond their limits. Then, like a star falling to earth, Galadriel steps into the fray. No armor weighs her down, no weapon gleams in her hand, only the light. It erupts from her in a wave, so brilliant that orcs scream, clutching at eyes suddenly seared blind. For one breathless moment, the assault falters. Elves rally, surging forward to drive the invaders back into the river, but shadows are stubborn things. Even as the first rank of orcs stumbles, the second pushes through, their crude shields raised against the light. A horn blares from across the water, deep and hollow, and the trees themselves seem to shudder at the sound. Reinforcements, too many. Haldir risks a glance over his shoulder. The last of the fleeing elves vanish into the golden haze of the forest, their silhouettes flickering like candle flames in the wind. Good, let them reach Galadriel, let them live. He knocks another arrow, his fingers sticky with blood, his own or an enemy's. He can no longer tell. The dawn will come, but it will not find them victorious, only standing, and sometimes that is enough. The orcs retreat like shadows before a rising sun, their snarling cries fading into the distance, but the silence that follows is no comfort. Across the Nimrodel, where the water once ran clear as crystal, smoke now coils into the sky. Great towers of flame blossom beyond the trees, their glow staining the golden leaves an eerie orange. The air tastes of ash and iron. Lothlórien's borders hold for now, but every elf knows the truth. This is not victory. It is the eye of the storm. Galadriel moves through the ranks of her people, her touch light on a wounded archer's shoulder, her voice steady as she murmurs to a trembling child. Her radiance never wavers, but beneath it, her thoughts spin like leaves in a whirlwind. The enemy does not need to breach their defenses today. They need only wait. Supplies will dwindle, fear will grow. The very trees that shelter them will become a cage if the siege drags on. She watches Celeborn at the edge of the clearing, the rhythmic scrape of his whetstone against his blade, a grim counterpoint to the distant crackle of flames. His eyes are fixed eastward, where the black spires of Dol Guldur claw at the horizon. He does not speak, but his silence shouts what they all feel. Time is slipping through their fingers like sand. Then a whisper, not from the wind, not from the lips of her people, but from the earth itself. The roots of the Melian tremble, carrying a message older than language. Galadriel goes still. Somewhere, deep in the heart of the forest, the ancient powers of the Golden Wood stir. The trees remember. They remember the first dawn, the first war, the first time shadow sought to choke their light. And they are not yet ready to surrender. A plan unfolds in Galadriel's mind, fragile as a spider's web, but just as intricate. She turns to Celeborn, and this time, her voice is not the calm of still waters, but the edge of a honed blade. We will not wait for the noose to tighten, she says. The enemy believes we are cornered. Let them think it a little longer. Celeborn's grip tightens on his sword. He knows that look, the one that means his wife has glimpsed a path even the wisest would miss. What would you have us do? A slow smile touches Galadriel's lips, one that holds no joy, but all the cunning of a fox facing the hounds. Remind them why Lothlórien has stood unbroken for 1,000 years. Beyond the river, the orcs cheer as another fire blooms against the night. They do not see the shadows moving beneath the trees, shadows that walk not on 2 legs, but on 4. The wolves of Galadriel have been summoned, and they are hungry. The air in Galadriel grows heavy, thick with the scent of crushed herbs and the electric tang of gathering power. Galadriel stands at the center of the clearing, her bare feet pressing into the cool earth as if drawing strength from the very roots below. Around her, the eldest of the Galadrim chant in voices like wind through ancient branches, their words weaving through the twilight. This is no simple spell. It is a song older than the first sunrise, a plea to the very bones of the world. She raises her hands, and the mist answers. Not the gentle haze of morning, but a living thing, silver and seething, rolling across the forest floor like a river unleashed. It curls around tree trunks, climbs the melian like ivy, until the heart of Lothlórien vanishes behind a veil no orc eye can pierce. But magic has its price. Galadriel sags as the last syllable leaves her lips, her golden hair dulled with sweat. Celeborn catches her elbow before her knees give way, his grip firm, but his eyes wide with alarm. "You cannot bleed yourself dry for this," he murmurs, though the words carry the weight of command. She shakes her head, her breath coming shallow. What choice remains? Let them see our weakness, and the trees themselves will burn. Across the glade, Haldir watches the mist swallow the highest flets, his bowstring taut between his fingers. He has fought at these borders for centuries, but never like this, never with the very light of his homeland, flickering like a guttering candle. When he steps forward, his voice does not shake. The spell buys us time, let me use it. His gaze flicks to the haggard faces of his kin, to the children clutching their mother's cloaks. A dozen of us, no more. We slip past their lines under cover of night, make for the Nimrodel. The dwarves of Khazad-dûm owe us no love, but they hate the orcs more. Silence falls, heavier than the mist. The dwarven halls are a labyrinth of shadow and stone, their lords unpredictable as a storm in the mountains. Yet the alternative is unthinkable, watching their people starve behind a fading enchantment. Galadriel studies Haldier's face, the stubborn set of his jaw, the fire in his eyes that even exhaustion cannot quench. She sees the unspoken truth. Those who go may never return. But when she speaks, it is not as a queen to her subject, but as one warrior to another. Take Rumil and Orifin with you. They know the mountain passes better than any. Haldier's throat works, but he only nods. He will not say goodbye. Not here, not now, with the mist thickening around them like a shroud. Instead, he turns to the volunteers already strapping quivers to their backs, their knives gleaming in the eerie half-light. Move swift and silent, he tells them, his voice barely above a whisper. The enemy hears every snapped twig, smells every drop of fear. We are not elves tonight. We are shadows. As they melt into the gathering dark, the last thing Haldir hears is not the chant of the Galadrim, nor the distant howl of orcish war drums, but the soft, terrible sound of Galadriel's breath, rattling in her chest as the mist drinks what little strength she has left. The forest holds its breath. The spell will hold, it must. At least until the dwarves answer a plea they may not even live to deliver. The night swallows Haldier's company whole as they glide between the trees, their cloaks blending with the shifting shadows. Every breath is measured, every step placed with the precision of hunters who know their prey is also hunting them. The air smells of damp earth and something fouler, orc filth, clinging to the underbrush where centuries have passed. Rumil signals a halt, his fingers flickering in the silent language of the Galadriel. Ahead, through a tangle of briars, torchlight flickers, a patrol. Too many to fight, too close to evade. Orofin points west, where the land dips into a narrow ravine, the longer path, the safer one. Haldir hesitates. Time is a blade at their throats. He shakes his head and draws his knife. They move like ghosts, slipping between the orcs' ragged lines, so close Haldir could count the rusted rings on their armor. For a heartbeat, it seems the night will spare them. Then a branch cracks, not under elven feet, but beneath the careless boot of an orc, stumbling drunkenly from the trees. Yellow eyes lock onto Haldir's. The creature's shout dies in its throat as an arrow pierces its neck, but the damage is done. Torches swing toward the sound. Arrows hiss from the darkness. Rumil goes down first, a black shaft jutting from his thigh. Orofin drags him behind a fallen log, his own bow singing death into the shadows. Go, he snarls at Haldir, even as another arrow grazes his temple. The message is worth more than all of us. Haldir's body moves before his heart can protest. He leaps over the log, rolls into the cover of a thorn thicket. Behind him, the clash of steel and the wet thud of blades finding flesh tell him what he already knows. He is alone now. Blood trickles down his ribs where a lucky shot skimmed his side, but the pain is distant, unimportant. The ravine looms ahead, a gash of deeper black in the night. If he can reach it, lose himself in its twisting paths, a horn blast shatters the air, so close it shakes the leaves. They've circled behind him. Haldir spins, his knife flashing as an orc lunges from the brush. The creature falls, gurgling, but more shapes surge from the trees. His breath comes in ragged gasps. The stars above blur. He thinks of Kara's Galadhen, of Galadriel's fading light, of the dwarves who may never hear their plea. Then he runs not toward safety, but straight into the ravine's jaws, where the rocks are sharp and the darkness absolute. Let them follow. Let them break their bones on the stones. The message will not die with him, not while his heart still beats. The cliffside crumbles under his boots. He slides, catches himself on a root, his fingers bleeding. Below, the roar of water, the silverlode, swift and cold. One chance, he leaps as arrows whisper past his ears. The river swallows him whole. The river spits Haldir onto a gravel bank like driftwood, his body bruised and his lungs burning. He coughs water onto the stones, his fingers clawing for purchase as the current tries to drag him back under. The world spins. Black water, blacker sky, the distant torchlight of orc search parties bobbing along the cliffs. He forces himself upright, swaying, every muscle screaming in protest. The message, he must remember the message. Khazad Doom, the dwarves. His hand flies to his belt, where the silver leaf sigil of Lothlórien still hangs, waterlogged but unbroken. Then a sound cuts through the roaring in his ears, not the harsh guttural cries of orcs, but the whisper of a bowstring being drawn. Haldir freezes. The arrow aimed at his chest gleams in the moonlight, and behind it, eyes like chips of winter ice. "Speak quickly," says a voice as crisp as frost on leaves, "or your next breath will be your last." Recognition floods Haldir's veins like fire. That voice. Those eyes. He sags against a boulder, laughter bubbling up despite the pain. "Legolas," he rasps. "Your aim is as sharp as your father's temper." The arrow drops. A figure steps from the shadows, golden hair braided for war, his light armor etched with the patterns of Mirkwood's ancient trees. Legolas's stern expression cracks into a grin. Haldir of the Golden Wood, looking more like a drowned rat than an elf of legend. Around them, a dozen more wood elves emerge, their bows lowered but their gazes still scanning the cliffs. Haldir's relief is short-lived. He clutches Legolas's forearm, his grip desperate. Lothlórien is under siege. The orcs mean to burn it to the ground. "We sought aid from the dwarves." Legolas's smirk fades. "A fool's errand. The gates of Khazad-dûm have been sealed for years, but you're in luck." He jerks his chin westward, where the trees grow thick and the stars are blotted out by something other than smoke. "My father sent us weeks ago when the first whispers of war reached his halls." Thranduil may be stubborn, but he's not blind to the shadow's reach. A horn sounds in the distance, deep and throbbing, not the crude bellow of orcish war cries, but the clear, mournful note of elven kind. The wood elves tense, their hands flying to their blades. "That's no orc signal," Haldir breathes. Legolas's face hardens. "No, it's the call to regroup." "Our scouts must have spotted the main force moving toward your borders." He pulls Haldir upright, tossing him a spare bow from one of his companions. "Can you still fight?" The weight of the bow in his hands feels like coming home. Haldir tests the string, his blood singing with something fiercer than hope. "Try to stop me." The company moves like a storm wind through the trees, their footsteps silent, their purpose iron. Ahead, the sky glows orange where Lothlórien burns. Behind them, the river rushes on, indifferent. But in the space between, there is this, the whisper of arrows being knocked, the gleam of starlight on blades, and the unspoken truth that some lights refuse to be extinguished, no matter how deep the shadow grows. The earth trembles beneath the tread of iron-shod siege towers, their black frames groaning as they roll toward Lothlórien's borders. Above them, the sky rides not with clouds, but with shapes too vast, too wrong, to be mere birds. Their wings slice through the smoke-laden air, and the stars blink out one by one, as if smothered by invisible hands. In the heart of Dol Guldur, where the very stones whisper with forgotten torment, the Necromancer watches. His gaze is a physical thing, a pressure against Galadriel's mind, cold as a blade pressed to the throat. He does not speak. He does not need to. The message is etched into the crumbling of the earth, into the way the Malorn leaves wither at their edges. This is not a battle. It is an ending. Galadriel lifts her chin. The wind whips her hair like a banner of defiance, and for the first time in centuries, she allows her power to rise unchecked. It pours from her in a cascade of silver light, so bright the nearest orcs stagger back, hissing like scalded beasts. The air hums with the tension of two forces, light and shadow, pressing against each other, each refusing to yield. Celeborn grips his sword, his knuckles white. He has seen his wife wield her gifts before, but never like this. Never with the weight of annihilation in her eyes. Across the battlefield, the siege engines creak to a halt. A hush falls, broken only by the distant screech of winged creatures circling overhead. Then, a sound like splintering glass. The nearest tower explodes in a shower of sparks and shattered timber, as if an invisible fist has crushed it mid-stride. Galadriel's hand remains outstretched, her fingers trembling with the effort. The elves cheer, but the victory is hollow. She knows the truth. This is a distraction. The real strike will come from elsewhere. High above, the winged shadows dive. Not toward the elves, but toward the heart of Galadriel, where the weakest and youngest have been hidden. Galadriel's breath catches. The necromancer's laughter curls through her mind, oily and triumphant. He has played his gambit well. Divide her strength, force her to choose, protect the borders or save her people. Celeborn is already moving, shouting orders to the archers. But Galadriel's eyes are fixed on the distant spires of her city, where the first screams rise into the night. The light around her wavers. For the first time in an age, doubt creeps in. Not of her power, but of its cost. To unleash herself fully would be to risk everything: the land, the trees, the very souls of those she seeks to protect. The necromancer knows this. He counts on it. And then, from the west, a sound that defies the darkness. Horns, not the shrill cry of orcish war drums, but the clear, ringing call of elven kind. A banner emerges from the trees, its silver threads gleaming even in the dim light. The sigil of Mirkwood. Thranduil's forces crash into the orc flanks like a tidal wave, their arrows finding wings in the dark. And among them, a flash of golden-haired Legolas, his bow singing death into the shadows. Galadriel does not smile, not yet, but the light around her steadies, pulsing like a heartbeat. The game has changed. The necromancer's gambit has been met, and now the true battle begins. The golden mist that once cloaked Lothlórien in safety now flickers like a dying candle, its threads unraveling beneath the weight of fire and shadow. Celeborn stands atop a crumbling wall, his armor dented, his cloak singed at the edges, but his voice rings clear as a silver bell over the din of clashing steel. To the last arrow, he cries, and the elves answer with a chorus of blades drawn from scabbards. There's no grand speech, no final words of wisdom, only the unspoken truth in every warrior's eyes. This is where they make their stand. Not for glory, not for victory, but for the heartbeat of time it might buy their fleeing kin. A young archer beside Celeborn knocks an arrow with trembling hands, her braids streaked with soot. She doesn't look like a soldier. She looks like someone's daughter, someone who should be singing in the glades, not standing knee-deep in the wreckage of her home. Celeborn's hand brushes her shoulder, the briefest touch. Aim for the gaps in their armor, he murmurs, under the arm, above the boot. Even monsters have weak points. She nods, swallows hard, and lets the arrow fly. It finds its mark. An orc captain topples mid-snarl, and for a heartbeat, the line holds, but the enemy is endless. For every orc that falls, 3 more scramble over the bodies of their own, their eyes gleaming with a hunger that goes beyond bloodlust. They've been promised something darker than plunder. The very earth seems to writhe beneath their tread, as if Dol Guldur, your shadow, has seeped into the soil itself. The elves fight with a ferocity born of despair, their movements fluid as water, their strikes precise as falling stars. Yet step by step, they're forced back. The mist thins, the light wavers, then a sound that chills even the bravest heart. A deep, resonant crack, like the spine of the world breaking. The great Lothlórien at the center of the battlefield, its golden leaves now blackened with smoke, groans and begins to topple. Celeborn's breath catches. That tree has stood since the dawn of the First Age. Its roots cradle the bones of kings. As it crashes to the earth, the ground trembles, sending warriors stumbling. The orcs howl in triumph. Galadriel's voice cuts through the chaos, not with a shout, but with a whisper that carries like a dagger's edge. Look to the east. Celeborn turns. Beyond the smoke, beyond the ruin, the first pale streaks of dawn bleed into the sky. But it's not the light that makes his heart stutter. It's the shapes moving within it. Winged shadows, yes, but smaller, swifter. Eagles, great and golden, their cries like trumpets, heralding the turning of the tide. The elves don't cheer. They don't have the breath for it, but their blades rise again, steadier now. The light may falter, but it isn't gone. Not yet, and sometimes in the darkest hour, that's enough. The moment stretches between them like a thread pulled taut. Celeborn's hand, gripping Galadriel's wrist. His eyes wide with a fear no battlefield has ever carved into him. You cannot, he rasps, his voice raw as a fresh wound. Not like this, not alone. Around them, the world burns. The air shudders with the screams of eagles locked in combat with winged horrors, with the crash of falling trees, with the distant, mocking laughter of the Necromancer threading through the chaos. Galadriel's fingers brush her husband's cheek, her touch featherlight, as if she's already half gone. Some choices were never meant to be shared, she murmurs. Then she steps back, and the light comes. It isn't the gentle glow of the evening lamp, nor the fierce blaze of her earlier defiance. This is something older, purer, a radiance that pours from her like water, from a shattered vessel, scouring the shadows from the air. The nearest orcs recoil, their flesh blistering, their weapons clattering to the ground as they clutch at eyes suddenly seared blind. Celeborn staggers, his own vision swimming with tears, but he does not look away. He watches as his wife's form seems to stretch, to blur at the edges, until she is less elf and more force of nature, a storm-given flesh. The Necromancer's amusement curdles into something sharper. The darkness above Dol Guldur convulses, tendrils of black mist lashing out like whips, but Galadriel does not flinch. She walks forward, each step leaving behind a footprint of molten gold in the scorched earth. The wind howls around her, carrying voices, whispers of the past, of the future, of every path she might have taken. The price of this power is written in the way her hair turns white at the roots, the way her skin begins to shimmer like parchment held too close to a flame. Celeborn's sword slips from his grasp. He knows, has always known, what dwells in her heart. The same fire that once refused the One Ring now blazes unchecked, and he understands with terrible clarity. She does not expect to return. His cry is lost in the roar of light as Galadriel lifts her hands, not in plea, but in challenge. The very air between her and the tower of Dol Guldur shivers, then splits. For a heartbeat, time stutters. The battlefield falls silent. Even the wind holds its breath. Then the world erupts in a clash of light and shadow so violent it shakes the mountains. The elves shield their faces, the orcs flee, wailing, and Celeborn, his heart a fist of ice in his chest, does the only thing left to him. He follows. Not into the maelstrom. No mortal could survive that, but along its edges, his sword cutting down any shadow that dares reach for her. If this is her end, he will make certain she does not meet it alone. The sky fractures like glass under the weight of their dual Galadriel's light, not just battling the Necromancer's shadow, but unraveling it. Each pulse of her power peels back another layer of his disguise, revealing glimpses of what lurks beneath. A face once noble, now twisted by centuries of torment and hubris. She knows him, not as the specter haunting Dol Guldur, but as the sorcerer who once whispered honeyed lies into the ears of kings. The name burns on her tongue, but she swallows it. To speak it here would be to give him a weapon, for names have power, and power is the currency of this fight. Their clash is not merely spells hurled like arrows, but a war of wills that bends the very fabric of the world. The ground beneath them groans, splitting into fissures that weep tendrils of mist. Trees older than empires topple, their roots torn free, as if the earth itself recoils from their struggle. Galadriel's every step leaves behind a searing imprint, her radiance scorching the grass into spirals of gold and ash. Yet for all her fury, the Necromancer does not yield. His darkness coils around her light, not smothering it, but gnawing at its edges like a starving beast. He laughs, and the sound is not a voice, but a vibration in the bones, a discordant note that makes the elves still fighting nearby clap hands to their ears in agony. "You see me, daughter of the golden wood," he murmurs, though his lips never move. The words slither into her mind, oily and insistent. Yet you hesitate. Why does your heart quail at the truth, or do you fear what you must become to face me? His shadow stretches, not toward her, but toward the wounded elves struggling to rise at the battlefield's edge. A threat, a test. Galadriel's breath hitches. She could end this, here, now, unleash the full tempest of her spirit and risk not just herself, but every living thing within the blast. The Necromancer's eyes gleam, daring her to try. He wants her to lose control, to prove that even the wisest can be broken. Then, a shift, a whisper of movement in the periphery. Celeborn, battered but unbowed, drives his sword into the earth, not as surrender, but as a conduit. The blade hums, resonating with the ancient songs of the land, and the surviving elves rally, their voices rising in a harmony older than darkness. Their song is no spell, no weapon, but something far more dangerous to the Necromancer, remembrance of light, of home, of all that he was before the shadow took him. For the first time, the Necromancer's smirk falters. Galadriel seizes the moment, not with a scream, but with a sigh. She exhales, and her light becomes a scalpel instead of a hammer, slicing through his defenses with surgical precision. The shadows shriek as they part, revealing, for the briefest instant, a flicker of something human beneath the rot. The battlefield holds its breath. The duel is not over. But the balance has tipped. The horns cut through the din of battle like a blade through smoke, clear, bright, and brimming with the fury of 1,000 ancient oaths. From the tree line, a tide of silver and green crashes into the orc flanks, their arrows finding throats before their war cries even reach the air. Legolas leads the charge, his bowstring singing with the precision of a master harpist, each shot felling an enemy before they can raise their rusted blades. Behind him, the wood elves of Mirkwood move as one living entity, their footfalls silent, their strikes merciless, and among them, limping but relentless, Haldir and his surviving scouts carve a path toward Galadriel, their faces streaked with blood and defiance. The orcs reel, their crude formations splintering under the sudden assault. What moments ago had seemed an inevitable victory now crumbles like rotten wood. Their snarls turn to shrieks as elven steel finds gaps in their armor, as the very earth seems to rise against them, roots twisting around ankles, branches snapping like whips to blind their yellowed eyes. The Necromancer's shadow wavers above the battlefield, his form flickering between corporeal and mist, as if the threads binding him to this world are fraying. His command over the horde stutters. Some orcs turn to flee, only to be cut down by their own captains. Others, maddened by fear, attack wildly, their discipline shattered. Galadriel sags where she stands, her light dimmed but not extinguished. The arrival of allies does more than bolster their numbers. It rekindles the hope that had begun to gutter in the hearts of her people. Celeborn catches her before her knees give way, his arm around her waist, the only thing anchoring her to the present. Look, he murmurs against her temple, his voice rough with exhaustion and pride. The tide turns. Above them, the necromancer's snarl vibrates through the air, a sound less of anger than of calculation. His form contracts, darkening, coiling like a serpent ready to strike. The winged horrors still circling the battlefield shriek in unison, their flight patterns shifting, no longer harrying the eagles, but converging toward their master. He is not retreating, he is gathering his strength for one final blow. Legolas senses it first. His head snaps up, eyes narrowing at the unnatural stillness in the shadow's movements. Haldir, he shouts, loosing an arrow into the throat of an orc, lunging toward them. The tower, he means to bring it down on us all. Haldir follows his gaze to Dol Guldur's crumbling spires, where black energy crackles along the stones like lightning seeking ground. The necromancer cares nothing for his own forces now. If he cannot hold Lothlórien, he will bury it, and with it, every soul still fighting beneath its boughs. Galadriel straightens, her fingers tightening around Celeborn's wrist. The light in her eyes is no longer the blinding radiance of before, but something quieter, fiercer, the last ember in the hearth before the storm. Then we must ensure, she says, her voice carrying over the clash of steel, that he falls first. Victory does not come with fanfare, not here, not now. The enemy melts back into the shadows beyond the Anduin, their howls of retreat fading like smoke on the wind. But silence is no comfort. Lothlórien stands, yet it is a realm forever changed. The great Malorn trees, once unbreakable, now bear the scars of fire and blade, their golden leaves drifting to the ground like tears. The air hums with the whispered laments of the forest, a song too sorrowful for mortal ears. Galadriel kneels in the clearing where the battle raged fiercest, her hands pressed into the earth as if she might pour her own life back into the soil. Her radiance, so blinding mere hours ago, has dimmed to a flicker, a candle guttering in the dark. The weight of her power, spent without reserve, hangs upon her like a cloak of lead. Around her, the fallen lie still, their faces peaceful in death, their cloaks spread around them like wings. They are not warriors now, only elves who will never again walk beneath the stars. Celeborn's footsteps are quiet as he approaches, his boots crushing no leaf, snapping no twig. His armor is dented, his sword notched, but his touch is gentle as he rests a hand on Galadriel's shoulder. No words pass between them, none are needed. The grief is too vast for language, the cost too stark to measure. They have saved their home, but home is no longer what it was. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of charred wood and crushed Elanor flowers. Somewhere in the distance, a child's sob rises, then is swiftly hushed. The living move among the fallen, their hands tender as they gather their kin, their voices soft with songs of parting. Haldir limps past, one arm slung over Legolas' shoulder, his face ashen, but his eyes alive with a fire that refuses to die. Even in ruin, there is resilience. Galadriel lifts her head. The first light of dawn spills over the treetops, painting the smoldering wreckage in hues of rose and gold. It is a cruel beauty, this morning after. The enemy may be gone, but their shadow lingers in the broken branches, in the scorched earth, in the hollows beneath the eyes of those who remain. Celeborn's grip tightens, not in triumph, but in promise. The battle is over, the healing begins, and though the trees weep today, their roots run deep. The golden wood remembers, and it will bloom again. The first light of morning spills through the broken canopy like liquid gold, gilding the faces of the living and the still. The air hums with low, melodic voices, songs without words, ancient as the roots beneath their feet. Each note carries the weight of names unspoken, of stories cut short, of laughter that will never again echo through the Mellion's boughs. The elves move slowly, their hands gentle as they lift their fallen kin, brushing dirt from silver hair, straightening torn cloaks with a care that borders on reverence. There is no hurry here. Grief refuses to be rushed. Galadriel walks among them, her steps measured, her face a mask of quiet strength. To the young ones who clutch at her sleeves with soot-streaked fingers, she is a pillar, unshaken. To the elders who meet her gaze with eyes full of unasked questions, she is a mirror, reflecting back their own exhaustion. Her fingers linger on a scout's bloodied brow, her touch cool as spring water, and for a heartbeat, the pain etched into his face eases. But the weariness in her own bones cannot be soothed. The battle may be won, but the war is far from over. Dol Guldur, yours still stands, its shadow merely recoiled, not vanquished. At the edge of the clearing, a group of wood elves from Mirkwood kneel beside their own fallen, their green cloaks pooled around them like moss. Legolas' voice rises above the rest, clear and steady as he sings the lament of the green wood, a song of starlight through leaves, of rivers that remember every name they've ever carried. Haldir listens, his arm bound in a sling woven from malorn twigs, and something in his tight expression softens. Enemies once, allies now, bound by blood and loss. A child's laugh rings out, sudden and bright as a bell. All heads turn. Near the healing tents, a little girl chases a spark of firefly light, her bare feet dancing over grass still damp with dew. The sound is so incongruous, so achingly alive, that for a moment, the very air seems to hold its breath. Then, one by one, the elves return to their tasks, but their hands are lighter now, their songs threaded with something warmer than sorrow. Galadriel watches the child, her lips curving in the ghost of a smile. This is why they fight, not for glory, not for vengeance, but for the chance to hear laughter rise again beneath the golden leaves. She lifts her face to the dawn, letting the light wash over her, and though her heart is heavy, it is not broken. The shadow will come again, but so will the morning. The golden leaves of Lothlórien, though scarred by fire and blade, still catch the dawn's light as they drift to the forest floor, a silent testament to resilience. Galadriel stands at the edge of the glade, her gaze fixed eastward, where the peaks of Dol Guldur claw the horizon. The battle is won, but the air hums with unfinished tension, like the pause between thunderclaps. She knows this is not an ending. Shadows do not vanish. They retreat, regroup, bide their time. Yet as the wind stirs her hair, carrying the scent of healing herbs and fresh cut wood, she does not flinch. The elves around her move with purpose, their hands steady as they mend broken fences and weave new spells into the wounded earth. There's a quiet pride in their work, a refusal to let grief define them. A child tugs at Galadriel's sleeve, her small fingers smudged with dirt, her eyes too old for her face. Will they come back? She whispers, her voice trembling not with fear, but with the weight of a question no child should have to ask. Galadriel kneels, her robes pooling around her like spilled moonlight, and tucks a loose strand of hair behind the girl's ear. All darkness fears the dawn, she says softly. And we are the dawn. The child's grip tightens, not in desperation, but in understanding. Around them, the murmur of elven voices rises, not in lament, but in resolve. Songs drift from the healing tents, where the wounded teach their brothers and sisters the old ballads of endurance. Even Legolas, his quiver half empty and his boots still caked with mud, pauses to add his voice to the chorus. Celeborn joins Galadriel, his shoulder brushing hers as they survey the work being done. No words pass between them, none are needed. The siege has carved its lessons into their bones. Trust in allies, but prepare for betrayal. Cherish peace, but sharpen your blades. Haldir limps past, his arm in a sling, his eyes alight with a fire that pain cannot extinguish. He nods to them, and in that nod is a promise not of vengeance, but of vigilance. The elves have always been keepers of memory. They will not forget. High above, an eagle circles, its cry piercing the morning stillness. Galadriel lifts her face to the sound, her thoughts already turning to the roads ahead, to Rivendell's council, to the whispers of darkness stirring beyond Mirkwood's borders. The wind shifts, carrying with it the faintest echo of laughter from the gardens where the children have begun to play again. It's a fragile sound, but it's enough. The shadow may return, but so will the light, and next time they'll be ready.